You think you're pretty smart, don't you? Not genius level smart, just smarter than average, better judgment than most people around you, more self-aware than the guy at work who talks over everyone in meetings. Here's the problem, that feeling, that quiet confidence that you're a little more switched on than the average person, that feeling is exactly what the Dunning-Kruger effect predicts you would have. And the people who are most wrong about themselves, they feel it the strongest. In 1999, two psychologists ran a study that would change how scientists understood the human mind. They discovered something that, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The least skilled people in any room are almost always the most confident. And the most skilled? They're usually sitting quietly in the corner, wondering if they're good enough. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the truly unsettling part, which almost no YouTube video ever tells you, is that the original study might have a flaw that changes everything. We'll get there. It began with a man who robbed two banks in broad daylight, with no disguise, in full view of security cameras. When police caught him hours later, he was genuinely shocked. He told them he had rubbed lemon juice on his face before the robbery because he believed it would make him invisible to cameras, like invisible ink. He wasn't joking. He truly believed it. This story landed on the desk of David Dunning, a psychology professor at Cornell University, and it sent him down a rabbit hole. His question was simple: how can someone be so wrong and have absolutely no idea they're wrong? He teamed up with his graduate student, Justin Kruger. Together they ran 4 experiments. They tested students on logic, grammar, and humor, and after each test, asked the students to estimate how well they did compared to everyone else. The results were staggering. Students who scored in the bottom 25%, the weakest performers, believed they had scored in the top 40%. They were wildly, confidently wrong, and they had no idea. The worse someone was at something, the less ability they had to even recognize their own incompetence. Dunning and Kruger gave this a name. And that name has since become one of the most searched psychology terms on the internet. But knowing the name is not the same as understanding what it actually means. Think about the last time you started something new. Maybe it was a new language, a gym routine, coding, cooking. The first week felt electric. You watched a few videos, tried a few things, and thought, yeah, I'm getting this. I'm actually pretty good at this. That feeling is called the peak of Mount Stupid. It's the moment you know just enough to feel like an expert, but not enough to know how much you don't know. A beginner guitar player after 2 weeks thinks they're halfway to Jimi Hendrix. A person who reads one book on investing suddenly thinks they understand the stock market better than professionals. A medical student in their second year is statistically the most dangerous. They know enough terminology to feel confident, but not enough experience to know when they're wrong. And here's what makes it worse. The very skills you need to recognize your own mistakes are the same skills you haven't developed yet. It's like trying to proofread in a language you don't speak. You don't know what you're missing because the missing knowledge is invisible to you. This is why beginners argue with experts. Not because they're arrogant, but because they genuinely cannot see the gap. But the story doesn't stop at incompetence. Because what happens to the people who actually do get good at something is even more surprising. Here's something nobody tells you about getting good at things. The better you get, the worse you feel about yourself. As a beginner, you're blissfully ignorant. You don't know the rules, so you can't see how badly you're breaking them. But the moment real knowledge kicks in, you start seeing every flaw, every mistake, every gap between where you are and where the true experts are. This is called the Valley of Despair. Imposter syndrome lives here. That feeling that you're a fraud, that you got lucky, that any day now someone's going to figure out you don't actually know what you're doing. The cruel irony? The people who feel this way are usually the most competent people in the room. Real experts know how deep the ocean is, so they're afraid of it. The beginners standing at the shore think they can see the bottom. High performers consistently underestimate themselves in studies. Top students rank their performance lower than average students. Award-winning scientists describe their own work as probably not good enough. The more you know what you don't know. And yet, there is a way out of this valley. There is a path back up to real, earned confidence. It just takes longer than most people are willing to wait. Look around you. You'll start seeing it everywhere. The Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't just affect individuals. It infects entire systems. A 2019 study found that people with the least knowledge about climate science were the most confident in their opinions about it. The people who knew the most, climate scientists, were the most cautious about their conclusions. Social media made it catastrophically worse. The internet gives everyone a platform before they've earned one. You can go viral with a confident wrong opinion faster than a careful right one. The algorithm rewards certainty. Nuance gets 3 views. A bold, confident, slightly incorrect hot take gets 3 million. And here's the deeply uncomfortable part. You are not immune to this. Every single person has areas where they are unknowingly sitting on that peak of Mount Stupid right now. The question is not whether you have blind spots. You do. Everyone does. The question is which ones. Now here's the part almost nobody tells you. The original Dunning-Kruger study, it might be fundamentally flawed. In 2020, a data scientist named Gilles Gignac and a colleague reanalyzed the original data. They found something extraordinary, the famous confidence curve that Dunning and Kruger showed. It may not reflect actual human psychology at all. It might be a statistical artifact, a mathematical trick called regression to the mean, where anytime you compare scores to estimates, the data naturally produces that exact same curve, even with random numbers, even with people answering questions about a language they've never heard of. This doesn't mean incompetent people aren't overconfident. Research shows they often are. But the clean, dramatic cliff drop curve that launched 1,000 memes? That part may be a ghost in the math. The real Dunning-Kruger effect is subtler, less dramatic, and far harder to spot in yourself, which actually makes it more dangerous, not less. So what do you do with all of this? First, assume you have blind spots. Not as a put-down, as a strategy. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who is certain they don't have any. Second, get uncomfortable. The valley of despair is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're actually learning. The beginners who never feel doubt? They stopped growing the moment they got comfortable. Third, find people who know more than you and actually listen to them. Not to feel small, to find out where your map of reality is wrong. Because the goal isn't to never be wrong. The goal is to get wrong faster, learn faster, and waste less of your life being confidently stuck at the top of a very small hill. The smartest thing you can say is still the oldest thing in philosophy. I know that I know nothing. And if you think the Dunning-Kruger effect is unsettling, wait until you find out about the psychological bias that makes you remember your entire past as better than it actually was. It rewrites your memories, right now, without your permission. That's the next video.